Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another night of Legend from the Past and the Future. Good evening, everyone. How you doing, Ayana?
I am doing great. How about you, Amon?
All is well. No complaints on this end at all. How about you, Rod?
I'm hanging on in there. Each day I get up is a blessing.
It's a blessing, straight blessing. I'm telling you, man. Well, we're gonna have a exciting show tonight. Exciting guests, man. You guys, this is Ayana's mentor, and I'm excited, man. How you feel about that, Rod?
I'm excited too, because he got to be on point if he train Ayana. And she got her own private jet and all that other stuff. That's why she always.
We're not even gonna listen to Ayana about this. We're gonna conversate about him ourselves, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right. I want a private jet too. I want to be in South Carolina one day, Hawaii the next day, back in Maryland that day. Then after the show with, now I'm in Florida. I want all that.
Hey, she's just showing off, man. I'm telling you, man. Whatever this brother is saying and doing, man, it's working.
Obviously. It's working for her all the way around. She got a future singer. She got an Oscar winner in the house. I mean, she all squared away.
Hey, look, before we bring our guests on, Lenny Knight, man, what's going on, brother? How you doing, man? Welcome
What's
to the
up,
show.
Classmate?
Yeah.
That's classmate right there.
Welcome to the show, Lenny. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a faithful viewer.
Best classmate ever. Best class ever. Class of 78.
Hey, let's go ahead and bring Brent to the stage, man. You guys ready?
Yeah, let's go.
You ready?
Coming to the stage. Here he is.
By the time all this over with, I better have me a jet.
Brent, hey, welcome to Brent.
So I'm just gonna jump in. I heard you all talking about a jet.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you saw, but I stepped away for a second. I don't know if you guys can see this.
What's that?
A jet.
So I'm a part owner in a jet company, and they sent all the owners the pocket knife.
Man, that's how Ayana be going all over the place all the time.
Look, every time we converse, I learn something new. I had no idea. So you're learning, you're getting the same information I'm getting at the same time.
I know he told you keep it on the low, because you know how us black folk is. I want to go too. I know.
Hey, brother, we're gonna get to it, man. But you might as well spill some of it now. What we gotta do to own it?
All right. So if any of you all invest, my background's a stockbroker, and of course, I've always been in occupations where if I never had a client, I could use the information myself. And that has always been my motto for any occupation I had. So I was a financial advisor. I started looking at ownership in different companies through stocks. And I was like, you know what? These companies have to start somewhere. The people that make the most money are people who get in pre-IPO. So I started doing, private investing into companies. And one of them happened to be, shameful plug, Jet AI. And they sent me this pocket knife. But the only reason I brought that up, it wasn't playing. Anybody watching that wasn't playing. But they were talking about jets, and I thought it was funny. And I had it literally on my counter. So I was like, let me just pull it out. But yeah,
No, we wasn't. He just wants y'all to know he owned a jet.
I don't own a jet. I'm an investor. I'm an investor in the company.
Well, if you invest in it, you own some part of it. A wheel.
I own some part of it.
A boat, a chair, something.
Yeah. I think I got a seatbelt in one of the jets.
Not a seatbelt.
Yeah. It might have my initial in it though. So.
Hey, Rod. Hey, downtown Naples this weekend for the next week is the boat show, and I guarantee you, we'll see a boat down there that says Brent Simpson. What you think, bro?
Absolutely. Spray paint, so it might happen.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely. And right underneath his name, it's gonna say Ayana's mentor.
Ayana. Hey, look. Well, look, we're gonna go
No,
and
you
get
have to emphasize Ayana's mentor.
Oh, okay.
Hey, look, we're gonna go get this party started, Brent. So, we're gonna travel back in future real quick, okay? Tell us where you were born and raised.
Born and raised Northeast DC, sandwiched between Saratoga and Montana Terrace, if anybody knows DC. So in between those two is Brentwood. My name is Brent. Pretty simple. You know, my mom went to McKinley Tech. My aunts are all in the Southeast side. So I'm a DC kid.
Awesome. What are some of the things you've done while growing up?
Learn what not to do when I get older. And, you know, it was a whole lot of lessons growing up. So I learned to pay attention. I mean, to be honest with you, you know, you grow up in certain environments and we all have lessons. Every step, every day, we all have lessons. Some people choose to listen, pay attention, and use it. Some people use it as a reason not to do something different. And so I decided to take the losses and the gains of being in that environment and apply it to my life. So, you know, coming up, I was a kid that could have went either way. You know, I definitely had a propensity for the good stuff and the bad stuff. And I learned that people are number one. You know, going to church with my grandmother growing up, she was the grandmother that stopped the car at the grocery store. If she saw an old woman with a grocery bag, it was my job to go help them.
Yeah.
And so she opened the car door, you know, go get the bag. And I really am thankful I had those lessons in church. If somebody came in and sat down on the pew and it was a little tight, I better go sit on the floor. So, you know, it's those things really taught me how to be humble, how to sit at a person's feet and still learn.
Man, that's what I'm talking about. What are some of the things that you've done while growing up? Were you actively involved in sports? What are some of the things you did?
Yeah, so I was a sports kid, baseball. You know, funny enough, I was actually on my rec team with John Francis, so that was fun. And Steve Francis, I'm sorry, Steve Francis was on our rec team, and then played baseball for a hot second. Wasn't that great. I was a pitcher though, but I wasn't that great. And then I went into track and field, and football were my two sports that I kind of stuck with. I broke 3 Montgomery County records in track and field.
Okay.
And, you know, at one point I probably was like the second fastest in the county.
Okay.
But it was one of those things where the lack of a man in my life, I think really hurt me. You know, my dad was locked up. My uncle OD'd in the basement. My grandfather died in his 50s. And so I never was around men besides the cats on the block. And they didn't really push school. So when I was excelling in sports, I thought everybody was fast because everybody in the neighborhood was fast. You know, I thought everybody could play football because everybody played football was good.
Yeah.
So I didn't look at it as anything special. I looked at it as just what everybody else does.
Wow. Was there anybody? Well, you just got through telling me that you didn't have a man in your life, but was there anybody in the neighborhood that you looked up to or could look up to?
Yeah, you know, I noticed I started gravitating towards players whose dads came to games.
Okay.
Like I really started taking an interest in them being my friends. And as an adult now at age 48, I realized I was trying to be really with their fathers as much as I was trying to be their friends. And it was something I was trying to fill a gap that I didn't know I had.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was a piece. And then I kind of found entrepreneurship when I turned about 15. I really understood entrepreneurship. And that's when, you know, I was at the track meets. And, you know, the first heat, when you run the first heat, for anybody who doesn't know track, normally the fastest people run the first heat. And normally the fastest people in that heat tend to be more popular because people come to watch those races. And that also means that the people that run the first heat wait the longest for the rest of the track meet. Because once you run first. And now you got to wait for a second, third, fourth, fifth, however many heats there are. So you're just sitting there. And while I was sitting there, the street lights kind of kept playing in my head. But at a track meet, there was one supplier for snacks. And back then, there was no Uber Eats. You couldn't order stuff out. You just went to that one window. They had hot dogs and juice and some sodas. That was it. It was a one window. It was a concession stand. That's the only place you can get anything. Kids didn't have their parents bringing them stuff. Nobody was driving. Everybody was on that bus. So I was like, man, this is what I know now is it's a closed market.
Yeah.
Like if any other suppliers can enter this market, they corner the market. There's only 2 people now that are suppliers. So I started selling candy at track events, and I was like, okay, I'm running first heat. They're very popular people. What happens if I start giving them bags of candy at the beginning of the meet? They can go sell to their team. I can give them a split. They bring me the bag back, count the money, split it with them, and now I have people working for me. And so I started selling candy, and at a certain point, I was making like $250 a track meet. And that's when I realized like it's a lot of money in this.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was the same rules I saw growing up, but just applied to bags of candy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, before I ask you this next question, okay, I want to say hello to Kenny Adams. What's going on, brother? Vanessa Turner, welcome to the show. Silk Sam, Semper Fi, always faithful, my brother. Now, you went to college, right?
Oh, yeah.
What was your major in college?
All right, first let's say Bowie State University. Shout out BSU. With that being said, my major was banking and finance.
Mm-hmm.
So being a banking and finance, so originally I'll say, HBCUs, I love y'all. I've actually served as a consultant on the White House Initiative on HBCUs for 2 years running. But 2007, 2008, I was a consultant to the White House Initiative on HBCUs because when I first landed at Bowie State, I was in that long line at the registrar's office, and you just went up to the front and told them what your major was. And when I got to the front after this extremely long line, I didn't know much about college. I wasn't educated when I was younger on like what college really meant. So I thought every college taught the same thing. And I wanted to be an oceanographer. I didn't know you should actually be at a college that's on the coastline to be an oceanographer. So I walked up at the registrar's office at Bowie when my turn came, and she said, "What's your major?" I said, "Oceanography." And the lady just looked at me and she said, "What's your major?" So I repeated, "Oceanography." So she sucked her teeth, looked at me again, and she said, "Baby, what's your major?" And at this point, like 3 people went on either side of me and they all said accounting. So I just said accounting. And she said, okay, she wrote it down, handed it to me. Probably like 6 months into it, I walked into a dorm. Everybody looked stressed. I was like, what's wrong with y'all? They said, we got an accounting exam coming up. I was like, this is accounting? Y'all look like that? So I went to your counselor. I said, what's the closest thing to accounting that doesn't require that many classes? And they said finance. I said, what's the difference between finance and accounting? They said 2 classes, but it was the hardest 2 classes. So I said, yeah, I'm going to do finance. So that is how I ended up as a finance major at Bowie State University.
Now, before I pass it over to Yana, I got to say this. Now, Roger, we had a conversation with Brent before we started, right? Mm-hmm. And his knees kind of bad. So 1 or 2 things happened to him that created his problems in his knee. Either Stevie Francis blew his knee out, or it was running track. One of those 2 happened to him, right?
So it wasn't Steve. And if y'all know Steve coming out of Tacoma Park, y'all know the story. Right before he went to Maryland, he grew like 5 inches in the summer.
Yeah.
So everybody knows his story. He was good, but he shot up. So he was a small dude on the court back then. So it wasn't him. So it was definitely track.
I like that. On you, Ayana.
Ayana, can you hear us?
She froze up.
Yeah, she froze up.
I can hear you guys now.
Okay.
You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yes. So so you talked a little bit about not having a male in your life and going through school and connecting yourselves with father figures. What kind of student were you when you were in school, and what prompted you to apply to college?
So my mother told me I was going to college, and I said I didn't want to go originally. I didn't know anybody I didn't know any men that graduated from college. So I didn't think it was a reason. I didn't think that was my future. I didn't think I lived past 18. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Whoa.
So that was kind of a shock to me when I was still here at the end of high school. I was like, okay, well, maybe I should go to college. And at that point, I didn't take school seriously at all. I had a GPA under 2.0. And they said I had to go into college under a program for kids with behavioral issues and learning disabilities. So I was like, I mean, I never had a problem with school. I just didn't think it was necessary. When I got to college, what kind of student was I? I was a very capable student who never tried. And when I landed for that program, I decided, number one, I'm still alive. 2, I'm in college. 3, I heard my mom had to pay for it. So let me take this seriously. And I ended up scoring so high on my placement exams, they put me in all honors classes. After that, I think I went from a 1 point something in high school to a 3.2, 3.4 my first year in college in all honors courses. And it was interesting because at that point, I always knew I could do it, but then I proved it to myself. I was like, oh, this has always been a choice. So it took me that moment in time to decide I had to make it now a continuous choice. What I would say a new mindset, no longer a choice. I had to choose to change my mindset to apply myself at all points. So at that time, I became a very good student. I was a very challenging student for my teachers. And I know my teachers, some of them, Dr. Dua, if you happen to see this, I grew up. So,
Too funny. And so you got into stockbroking. You got into that at a very young age. Tell us about that journey.
okay, so like I said, I was a very challenging student. And like I also mentioned in the beginning, if you hadn't see the beginning, you need to go back and watch the beginning of this. There was a very close similarity between accounting and finance. I mean, it's literally the difference of 2 classes. So I was in a lot of accounting classes, and I always knew accounting was necessary for business. Like I said, I knew people when they made a lot of money, no matter how they made it, they always had to count it. Like no matter how you made your money, you had to count it, and you had to have a purpose for it after that. So in accounting class, the professor asked a question one time about what we're going to be. And I told him I wanted to be a stockbroker. And he literally laughed in the middle of class. And he was like, basically, you can't be a stockbroker. And I was like, why can't I be a stockbroker? And it wasn't what you're thinking. It wasn't because I was black. He said it because you had to have licenses to be a broker. And I literally told him, no, you don't. And he was like, Brent, like I'm professional. I know in order for you to be a stockbroker, you have to have certain licenses. And I was like, no, I don't think that's true. So I went back and I did some research and I found out that you can actually start an investment club. And if you start an investment club, you can be a president of an investment club. Mm-hmm. And normally the president of an investment club will be the person who determines what stocks you purchase or what investments the club goes into. So I started Wealth Enterprise Investment Club. And the difference was the investments that we were investing in were stocks. So for my investment clubs, we invest in stocks, which in my mind made me a stockbroker. So when you ask me how old or what made me get into stocks, I saw so many opportunities to make your money make money. And I saw other people around me who were working like constantly, and they were like working hard. And I was like, well, what is your money doing? And the only thing I knew was flip money. Like flip money was always in my head. And I knew working for other people, they could determine how much I made, and that just made me sick. And so, I went back to Bowie and I told them, I was like, I started an investment club. I need help growing it now. And they were like, well, you did the most you can do. And I was like, you're killing me. So I called Harvard University and I told them, I was like, I have an idea that I want this investment club to grow and I don't know what to do. I need some guidance. And Harvard asked what school I went to. I told them, they said, why didn't you talk to the school? I said, they did. They told me I went as far as I could. And they were like, no, well, we're going to give you an advisor. And they gave me an advisor from Harvard. And that person worked with me to incorporate the investment club. So in 1997, I started my first LLC. And it was Wealth Enterprise LLC. It might have been Wealth Enterprise Investment Club LLC. I don't remember. But 1997, LLCs weren't even a thing. It was either S Corp, C Corp, or partnership. So we were like way ahead of the curve. And then in addition to having the LLC and moving the investment club into that LLC, I started having membership dues. So it was $1,000 for anybody to join. I was in my sophomore year of college. It was $1,000 for anybody to join. And then we took a portion of every like section of stocks that they bought. So I was making like maybe $8,000+ on certain deals when I was a sophomore in college. And I tried to talk to everybody at Bowie about investing, and they kept telling me I'm always on some different stuff. And like, how come I don't drink? Why don't I smoke? Why don't I this? Why don't I? And I was like, guys, we could be making this money in the market. Like, let's put our money and pool our resources and buy some stock. And 2 or 3 people, they got down with me, but most of my like members came from GW and University of Maryland. And friends' parents, a couple friends' parents got into it.
Wow. Okay.
That's how I got started.
On to you, Roger.
Okay, now that you made all this money, let me go and put a couple things out there real quick. 1, I need a boat ride. 2, I need to be in that seatbelt that's on your plane. So I'm going. I put that beside the star. We'll talk about that later. I got it. Take it. So, right. So, do you have any family members that following in your footsteps?
No, but I say I followed in my other family members' footsteps. So my dad grew up in North Carolina, and it was 4 brothers, 4 sisters. And although my dad did get locked up, he was an entrepreneur. Now, granted, he did some things wrong, but he also taught me what it looked like to manage your own life.
Right.
I didn't follow in his footsteps all the way. Clearly, I'm here. But he also was an investor in real estate. And so he taught my older cousin, Tyrone Simpson, about real estate. And my older cousin learned the game. Like, he does probably 32+ million a year now. And he taught me the game. Ooh. And so, I followed in his footsteps. And, I went to bed listening to Zig Ziglar, Earl Nightingale. Like, this is what I listened to in my dorm. And people thought I was crazy. So, it was definitely me following other family members' footsteps. Now, I am that guy at family reunions now that is like crazy. Like, you got a will, you got a trust, you got life insurance, and for the kids, they need to have 529 plans and life insurance. So I am making sure that the kids in our family are made, if not millionaires, they're sitting on at least $500,000 by the time they hit retirement. So they don't have to worry about money being there in retirement.
That's great. I saw in your bio that you were coaching. Are you coaching younger people, or is just anybody?
So I coach a lot. I mean, like, I speak at schools. I spoke at Coppin State last Friday. If they want to listen, I was always an ear. And then it went a step further. Like, I went back to Bowie. And I do pitch competitions. I'm a judge for, young entrepreneurs. But during COVID, a friend of mine, Leon Noble, we started Investing Education Academy. It was a platform that teaches people about the stock market. The reason we started is we were coaching. Like, again, anybody that wanted to know about the stock market, we were happy to dive in. But I'm also about efficiency. Like, I'm happy to be there, but I've seen people give so much of themselves that they deplete themselves and they can't give to more. So I'm definitely of the stance that, I'm happy to give to you, but it has to be mutually beneficial in some form or fashion. And we started Investing Education Academy just because during COVID, we weren't going to abandon people, but I couldn't talk to everybody one-on-one. We needed to talk to everybody at once. And then it just grew to like 200+ members in, the course of like 2-3 years. So we have Investing Education Academy is a platform I co-founded with Leon Noble, and we teach financial literacy on that platform. So I guess I'm still coaching.
Wow, that's awesome. But well, what I was saying though, I think my last question, I must have messed it up. I wasn't asking, did you follow anybody's footsteps? Is anyone following your footsteps now, family member?
Yeah. So
Okay.
the answer was no. And so that's why, you asked it perfectly. And I was like, since it was a no, I tried to tell whose footsteps I followed in. So you
Right,
I
got you. Yeah. It's all good. That don't cut my ride on the plane with the seatbelt. You still good with that?
You good. You good.
Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna turn you back over to
Hey, so my brother, how long did the investment club last?
So we started in 1997 and it went to 2001 when I graduated. I took a year off. I had my first knee surgery in college, and I really was like, I'm not going back to school. I just wanted to start a company. And my mom was like, yeah, that's not happening. So it went from 1997 to 2001 when my first job out of college was at Chevy Chase Bank. It was actually at Chevy Chase Financial Services, which was a division of Chevy Chase Bank. It was at a period where I was interning. I was an intern after school. And they came in and they put all the interns in, and they were like, look, we gotta let you guys know something. Some good news and some bad news. They said we're letting go of all our part-time people at the bank, at the financial services department, and we're letting go of all our interns. I'm a part-time intern, so I'm thinking it's like 6 of us in the room. Like there's no good news in that. So everybody's leaving. I'm leaving. I'm like, and I stop. I turn around like, why was there any good? Like, you said it was good news. Where was the good news in that? And the vice president was like, oh, Brent, we needed to talk to you separate. And I'm thinking like, well, I know I didn't do anything wrong. So, okay, maybe they didn't like the fact that I asked that question. And they took me in a room and they were like, look, yeah, we did say it was some good news in addition to the bad news. I was like, yeah. And they were like, you were the only one getting the good news, so we didn't want to say it in front of everybody. And they told me at that point they were going to make me no longer a part-time person, but they were putting an offer on the table that when I graduated, I can come work for Chevy Chase Financial Service. But in order to do that, I had to eliminate Wealth Enterprise Investment Club because it was a conflict of interest.
Okay. Investment groups don't normally last a long time anyway. I had the opportunity of actually forming one along with 4 other partners. The very first unit that I was stationed in, we formed a club in 1997, investment group. But you caught the attention of a very serious person who happens to be my uncle, and he wants to know if you have a link that he could to your academy.
Yeah. It's just investingeducationacademy.com. And so investingeducationacademy.com.
Okay. Now, we talked briefly before you came on about fiduciary, right?
Yes.
So what is the difference between a fiduciary and let's say a stockbroker?
Yeah, so most stockbrokers by default are fiduciaries, and that just means that they have a financial responsibility to do what's right for their clients. It is a very simplistic way of saying that's the fiduciary. They have some type of oversight of your money. Now, when you look at, I would say to kind of change your question just a tad bit, a financial advisor and a stockbroker, a financial advisor may not have any fiduciary responsibility. They may just be giving financial advice on what they believe to be right, but they can't actually touch your money. A stockbroker, in most cases, can actually touch your money. And that's when fiduciary responsibility kicks in, because there's certain laws around how we touch your money, what we do with your money, which is reason why we anti-money laundering and all these courses we have to take when you do have financial fiduciary responsibility are extremely important.
Awesome. I'm gonna tell you, man, I've heard so much about you, man, and I feel like I know you, especially your trips to Ghana. But I'm gonna leave that for you. I'm gonna leave that for Yana, okay? On you, Yana.
So you got into stockbroking, and then eventually your career, it evolved, or what you were doing as an entrepreneur evolved. So share with us what it involved, what it evolved into? What other industries did you begin to touch?
Yeah. So, like I said, I was a corporate registered investment advisor. And what that means is I essentially ascended to a level high enough where I can consult corporations on what to do with their money. In doing that, they were prepping me for the firm, was prepping me for a life as a CFP, which is the equivalent in finance to a CPA in accounting. You have to do a certain amount of coursework and have a certain amount of experience even to take the CFP. So I was doing my coursework at Georgetown to be able to sit for the CFP. And that's when I realized, as a corporate investment advisor, you're also doing buy-sell agreements, cross-purchase plans, succession planning. And at that level for those companies, people had to be able to afford the firm. And it was my job to get them ready to be able to afford the services of the firm. But the firm really benefits, you know what I mean? Like you just prepping them. Then they come buy these products and you get a commission on it. But the firm gets this long-term relationship with the client. And that disturbed me. And so, again, being a financial advisor, I felt like I had some type of autonomy on my life. Like I didn't have a schedule. I didn't necessarily have to be at work at a certain time. But when I was, there was such stringent laws around what I could do. I couldn't be me. And I'm a very free-flowing personality type. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start consulting corporations on my own. And then I was like, I don't want to consult corporations. I want to take corporate level solutions and provide them to small businesses. That's what I want to do. Like that is something I see as useful for our community. I had reached a level where I wasn't seeing us anymore in my deals. And when they would send me into rooms, I wasn't seeing us. And I was like, this is cool, but I don't want this to be my life forever. So I took that corporate registered investment advisory knowledge and started applying it to small businesses. And that's when I made the transition. Shout out to attorney Cheryl Henderson. I was and for you guys to know, I used to sit in for estate planning attorneys when they dealt with situations that were too complicated as it related to money. Like if it dealt with, setting up a trust and all that, but the funding mechanisms of that estate plan, I would come in and provide either a strategy for, getting it or looking at what they were doing to make sure it was the best thing. And attorney Cheryl Henderson one day asked me to run a mastermind of hers with some of her friends. And she was like 30 years older than me at the time. And I was nervous. I was like, I don't want to sit in front of a room like a highly accomplished attorneys and have them judge me. So she's very religious, like very extremely religious. And she was like, Brent, you'll be good. God wants you to do it. And I was like, no. And she asked me again, and I said, no. And she called me one day and she was like, Brent, have you reconsidered? I said, no, I'm not doing it. And then I called her back and I stopped. And sometimes we all need to be quiet. We all need to stop and hear what God is really saying to us. And it takes a certain amount of vulnerability to be able to admit to yourself that you're wrong. And I knew I was wrong, but I didn't know how to get out my own way. Because also sometimes we dig our heels in. Like we know we're wrong. We know we should be going in a different direction, but we already started walking and it's downhill and I got a tailwind. So I'm going to keep going down this hill, but I know it's the wrong way, but it's just easier. And I don't want everybody at the top of the hill to see me come back up sweating and tired because I went the wrong way. And so, in that space, I called her back and was like, Attorney Anderson, I'm not stepping out on my faith. I'm going to step out on yours. You clearly see something that I don't see. And I'm just going to trust that God showed you a vision for me. And, needless to say, I did a mastermind for some of her friends. And I thought these people are so far ahead of me. Like it's no value I could bring. And I mean, normally I don't think that, but I was thinking it. And out of 8 people in that room, 6 of them said they want me as their business advisor. And I didn't even do that. I was a broker at the time. I was like, it's not even my thing. So I was like, and as a broker, all your fees are pre-structured. You don't make up your own fees. And so I was like, I never had this opportunity before. Let me say a number so crazy that I'm sure they're going to say no. So I said a number and it went from like 4 of them being interested to maybe 2. But the number that I said to those 2 was enough that I was shocked. I was floored. I was like, yeah, I'm out. I was like, I'm about to be a business advisor. I was like, this is awesome. So, I think it was 2017 that happened, September 2017. And I had an intern from University of Maryland, a young kid in my fraternity. I was mentoring him, and he was a finance major in Maryland, so I was showing him everything I knew about finance. And he when he graduated, he went to work for me at the firm, which meant I didn't have to pay him. And so September 2017, I told him, I think I'm gonna go in this direction. Does he want to go? He said, yeah. October 2017, he had 3 tumors or brain clots in his brain, and he ended up needing emergency brain surgery. And I think the next month after that, I had an abdominal rupture, and I needed surgery. And then after that, I ended up having knee surgery in November. And then in December, he had another brain surgery. Then in January, I had 2 knee surgeries. Then in February, he needed a 3rd brain surgery. And I just was like, and I just left. It was the month after I left to start my own thing. And I was like, man, this is maybe I did the wrong thing. And I brought this kid with me. And so I took out a loan on my house just so I could pay his salary while he was going through all that. And I didn't have any money. And it was like I was paying the salary through an equity line on my house. And so that's how I entered the world. That was my graduation into entrepreneurship. And so people were like, oh, it must have been easy for you. It must be this. I'm like, then you must never heard my story, because it wasn't. And that's how I got into, entrepreneurship. We're actually consulting entrepreneurs on ways to grow their company.
So what are some of the major challenges you've seen with small businesses, and what are some of the solutions that you've offered them?
I think the biggest challenge for small businesses are habits. I know that sounds like super simple, like you might be looking for some much sexier answer, but it's habits. People get into a groove of what they're doing, and it just becomes what they do. And they define themselves by doing the same thing over and over again, whether it works or not. And, I've also seen entrepreneurs that they don't want to admit that they could be doing something better. And they don't want to pay attention to the industry when the industry is telling them, like, this isn't the right path. They're so hell-bent on making what they want in their heart to be right. They don't look at the fact that they're going in debt year after year, month after month. They just keep trying. And, we have some people who are like, yeah, you just got to stay in it long enough. Oh, you know what? It'll come in someday. Like, what's your plan? We get so caught up in the passion of chasing what we want to catch that we sometimes get blinded by the reality of that maybe the path that we're taking isn't the best path. And, economically, we just left to start our own. This is for new people. Economically, we just left to start our own thing. So we don't think we have enough money to hire somebody to coach us. And then if we do hire somebody to coach us, we don't have the resources to do what the coach just offered. And then you get the people who are like, I've been doing this so long, I can't take advice from anybody. Like I know I'm right. I just got to figure out the best way to get there. And so that really just having that stand in their own way mindset is what I've seen quite a bit.
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Roger, it's on you.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I watched that happen to one of my friends to go from living in a $3 million house to sleeping on somebody's couch. And now he live in an assisted living place. He don't have no transportation and all that. But whenever people was trying to help him, it's like you said, his pride kept him getting in his own way. And the individuals that try to help him, they went on and prospered. And now, years later, he's saying, I should have listened. My grandfather told me a long time ago, when you look in the mirror, all you see is your reflection. When somebody stands behind you and look in the mirror with you, they see your potential. And we often can't see that. Y'all can keep that if y'all want to. But we often can't see our own potential, especially, Armin and I and Yana, I don't know about them, but I know Armin and I served in the military. And a lot of times they would be telling you, or you could do this, or you could do that. And in your mind, you said, no, I can't. But military forced you to do it. But you had enough sense. I mean, you had that lady, the older lady who
Brent
saw.
forced you to do it.
Huh?
Brent forced me to do it too. So.
Oh, Brent.
Brent forces you to do this.
Brent, you see who said that, right? I still got my seatbelt, right?
You good? Good. You good?
Okay, I'm good. Okay, all right. Yeah. So, but she saw you, your potential, and that's the biggest thing with us. And so they said I heard Almond mention Ghana. What were you doing in Ghana? Because I've been to Ghana and Cameroon, but what was you doing there?
Yeah, so I was in Morocco and Ghana, and when I was in Morocco, I negotiate deals with people. So a lot of my clients, they'll bring me in to negotiate deals. And I have clients that will fly me around the world now just to have me in the room. Wow. And it's funny, I asked one of my clients, we were in Thailand, I was like, well, what's my job while I'm here? And they said, just to listen. You're very good at figuring things out when you listen, and you're going to see my blind spots. So, when I was in Morocco, it was an investment group, and they were trying to buy property in Morocco, and they brought me out just to see how they were doing. Literally, like that was it, just to look over what they were attempting to accomplish and to see if I had thoughts about it. I would say at this point, I have really good thoughts. I've seen so much business. You can almost put any business in front of me. I can tell you how to make you more money, like immediately, like within minutes. And so it's the ones that know I have that gift take me everywhere. The ones that are curious if it's really a gift or not, they're looking at me through a little peephole. And in Morocco, the deals that are done are very vulnerable to what the king wants. And Morocco is a kingdom, if anybody doesn't know that. So when the king says something is a go, it's a go. Like if the king walks by your house and says, "This is my house now," it's the king's house, period. There is no process of getting it back or anything of that nature. So the people embody that as well. So if you have a deal, it's not everywhere in Morocco. So anybody Moroccan listening to it's like, yo, that's not true. Please put it in the comments, contact me directly if you like. It's very real that Moroccans sometimes are pro-Moroccan, which is not wrong with that. But the country supports it in a way that you really have no recourse from an investment standpoint. So why does that matter for Ghana? Why is that story relevant? Because then when I went to Ghana for the first time, I saw that the government actually supports foreign investment there. And I was like, oh, this is so like I wanted to do something on the continent of Africa. I didn't know what, I didn't know how. I had a client, she was modeling out in LA and she was negotiating some beachfront property in Ghana. And again, brought me in to negotiate the deal. And I'll be honest, I did such a good job negotiating. I was like, I want one too. And so, I ended up getting beachfront property in Ghana as well. And when I was there, I started seeing all this other potential. And I was like, wow, like Ayana's doing a tour, an investment tour in Ghana in September, because she too is, she went when her last trip there, and she saw the potential.
Private jet. Wherever you want to, private jet.
There's so much potential in Ghana. Right? Where are you guys from? Roger, Armand, where are you from?
Armand and I, we went to school together from third grade to high school. We from Annapolis.
Okay, Annapolis. Okay. Actually, the guy who I started Investing Education Academy with, we've known each other since we were in the fourth grade. But Annapolis, so going to Ghana right now in certain areas is like watching the DMV get built. And when I say the DMV, it's like, you may have Tema that is the equivalent to like a Rockville being built out. And then you have, a Bree, which might be the equivalent to some areas of Montgomery County. Let's say, let's go with some, let's say Annapolis. It's right. Like watching Annapolis. It's not like Annapolis. Annapolis has water, so it's not like Annapolis. But it's an area you get to watch get built, and you know what it's going to be later on. So right now, it's super exciting because I'm part of DC getting built, but it's just in Ghana. And my last trip out there, it was, motivated by the COVID experience. I was like, man, during COVID, everything here shut down, but Ghana really didn't do anything different. And some people are so US centric that they've just never been anywhere else. They think this is the only place to make money, and it is not. And now, I'm looking at my life, and I'm 48, and I know people older, I know people younger, and some people have explored opportunities beyond what they think is even possible, and some people haven't. And I see the people who've tried something beyond themselves, and their retirement looks so different. Like how they live their lives is so different. And then I've seen people who like got into this box and got into this groove. They're good. They're comfortable, but like they're not having parties on private islands. And that's not necessarily everybody's goal. But like if a family member gets sick, they're not paying for a nursing home for the next 5 years. Everybody's doing the GoFundMe, or they're trying to figure stuff out. And when people die in certain families, there's no inheritance passed on. If I die, my daughters get 1.5 million. And my daughters are 9 and 12. They don't do it.
Watch your back.
Hey.
This is the thing. I've educated my family to the point where I don't have any concerns for that.
Right.
Like they love me for this because the money, that's normal to them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the families that all of a sudden the kids find out it's 1.5 and they've lived this hard life that it gets dicey. Mm-hmm. But my girls, I'm more valuable to them to live. I'm gonna show them how to make way more than 1.5.
Right. There you go.
That's a little bit.
Awesome.
And so, we're not teaching our kids these things. We like, even my mom, before I first like really engaged with my mom, she was like, I'm not talking to you about my money. And I get it. She's an old school Black woman from DC. But it took me like years to chip away at her and chip away with her. When now at Christmas, we talk about what stocks the kids are buying instead of who's opening what gift first.
There you go.
That's a family conversation. And so my daughter, she saw this stuff happening with the market right now. And she said, Dad, it's like everything's on sale.
Yeah.
And she's 9 years old. So, I'm somewhere like mentally, like Ghana to me, my kids, when they go to Ghana, the first thing they do is try to figure out what they need to buy to make their money back for the plane ticket. Mm. Like they know they need to buy a certain amount of things to make enough money to pay dad back for the plane tickets that got them to Ghana. So, I love finance. I love Black people. I love progress. I'm open about it. I'm excited about it. And, some people want to get in and some people want to watch to see if it's real. Mm. I'm in Ghana knowing I might lose everything. And I'm like, you know what? If I do, I got a story to tell versus telling somebody else telling my story because they can watch me.
Right. Yeah, my friend over there, him and his wife, they opened up some orphanage, a few of them, and like you said, the government, is supporting them, and they put it in the trust and everything, and they manage the trust, but they're doing extremely well, and now that we know Ayana been getting ready to go over there and buy like 1,000 miles of beachfront property. Now we know where we can go hang out in the summertime, so
yeah, probably you're gonna be one of my investors.
The funny thing is that's not really far away from the
talk about there.
So so Ayana's part, there's a guy right now, Dre Taylor, shout out to him. He's doing a 14-city tour, and him and Ayana are talking about stuff like that. And then I'm actually coming in to be an advisor to buildings. You guys are in Rockville, so imagine going down Rockville Pike and the buildings that you see, those high rises. Imagine going and watching the Super Bowl with the people that own those buildings. That's where I was for the Super Bowl. I was in Ghana with them, and we're looking out the window of one of the bars. The guy has a 200-unit building, and it's his building. It's not somebody he knows. It's not somebody down the street. And then I was like, you know what? I saw that apartment building. I wanted to actually get something there, but it's sold out. And he called me the next morning. He was like, Brent, can you come down to the building? I was like, all right. Came down to the building. He was like, look, I had a meeting with somebody. I think I can get you this apartment. And I was like, okay, I hear you. But I also know the price point for this particular, it was the equivalent to like a Georgetown area, like what Georgetown's going to be. Mm-hmm. It's maybe 2 blocks from the U.S. Embassy. If you guys have ever been to the U.S. Embassy in Africa, in Ghana. It's 2, 3, maybe 3 blocks. So I'm like, look, I know the price point. He said, yeah, this is the price. And he showed it to me. I was like, ooh, like, I don't know, like if I can just do that. And he was like, no, that's the price. This is your price. I called my wife and I was like, hey, babe, look, this is what's going on. She was like, how much does it cost? I said this. She was like, ooh. I was like, but wait, this is our price. And she was like, oh, yeah, write the check. And so I was like, yo, I'm going to buy this apartment. So I bought the apartment before I left. It was 2 days before I left. And now I'm coming back in as an advisor to that building, showing them how to actually grow it beyond where it is right now. So like the opportunities are all there. And when Ayana does her tour and when I'm consulting businesses there, like Ayana, I'm showing people in the US how they can also do business in Ghana. And I'm showing people out in Ghana how they can have relationships throughout the diaspora, not just in the US, but in the UK, looking at the West Indies. And it's a much bigger, and it's really a global economy right now. And I'm excited to show people that normally had a mindset that I can only do what I'm doing right here, way bigger, like way bigger.
Awesome.
And that was my Ghana story. I get excited. I went off, right? I'm off.
It's all good, man. It's your show. It's your show. We asking the questions. You telling the story, like you said in the beginning. We can't tell your story. You got to tell your story. And with that's a cool exit. With that, I'm gonna send you the arm. See how smooth that was? Smooth.
Hey, I'm gonna give you a couple of situations, okay?
Yes.
I've got a lot of money tied up in a Fidelity, right? Yep. So I came to you. What is it? Bold Vision Enterprise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus Fidelity. Why should I move my money from Fidelity to you? What would be the advantage of doing that?
Yes. First, I got to ask a couple questions. And in a normal situation, I would go down this road. Fidelity has investment accounts that are individual investment accounts. They have retirement accounts. They have trust accounts. So first, you got to figure out what kind of account the person has, because maybe there isn't an advantage.
The game ain't in the
That's number one. And anybody who is in an advisory capacity and you ask that question to, and they dive straight in telling you why they're better,
I get it.
You should run from them. You should 100% run from them, because if their first instinct is to tell you why they're better, they're not even trying to understand you. They're trying to make money.
That's good.
And so, I hear people toting IULs and all this stuff right now. And when I start asking them questions about it, sometimes they can't answer the questions. And I'm like, do you have a securities license? And they're like, no. I'm like, what do you sell other than IULs? And they're like, that's it. And I'm like, then how do you know it's the best? Yeah. And they're like, because it does all these things. I'm like, but how do you know what else does all those things? I can do a Series E bond. I can do a double H bond. Do you know about bond laddering? Do you know how bond laddering works? So I'm saying that to say, number one, Fidelity is an amazing company. So let me start there. Fidelity allows you to do what's called fractional share purchasing. And like E-Trade doesn't. So E-Trade, you have to have the complete amount that a stock costs in order to purchase a stock. At Fidelity, you can buy 1/1000 of that share, which means for kids, especially like you start talking about your grandkids, your kids, they can put $1 in and now become a part owner in Microsoft. And so that's how they build wealth, like real wealth, in a Fidelity type account. But then you have people who are in a Fidelity retirement account, which was their old jobs, either 401k, 403b, 457 plan, 412i, 457, 415, whatever it might be. They bought that over from their job, and it was with Fidelity. Now, in those cases, you might want to roll it over into what's called a self-directed IRA, which just simply is a fancy way to say you now have control of that account. So, I'm not going to poo-poo on Fidelity because I think it's a great company. So it might not be advantageous. And also, too, I'm not a licensed broker anymore. So I'm not taking over people's accounts. I'm telling people what they can do where they are already. So if you came to me and you said, like, I have an E-Trade account with all this money in it, I'm probably going to say, well, have you thought about switching it over to Fidelity?
Okay.
Because you're going to have more options on what you do with Fidelity. Let me show you how. And they pay me for that.
Gotcha.
And then if they need suggestions on an asset allocation model that makes sense for them, Leon and I can provide that through Investing Education Academy. Because what happens is right now, the world of finance has gotten very lazy. and they have what's called robo investing. If you guys are you familiar, Roger, with robo investing?
No,
It's just
I
a
am
robot
not.
that invests for you.
Say it again.
I'm not.
It's a robot that invests for you.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So like I would say like 25 and under, this is what they're used to. They're not used to a broker like me. They're used to robo investing. And it's a program that runs an algorithm that just takes into account really their age and just gives them what they think it should buy. It doesn't take into fact, I mean, it does, but some are better than others. But you should really look at like, how big is this person's family? What's their relationship with money? What was their trauma with money? Even if I gave them the best plan in the world, but I know they have an itch to go gamble, I need to give them a plan that allows them a little flexibility in the money than one that ties it all up. If I know somebody's very disciplined with money, I may put them in a plan that's going to lock up money because I know they don't mind it. But when you do robo investing, it doesn't take those things to account. I know this person he got a side baby that don't nobody know about. So we got to figure out how to slide some money over there. I know this woman, she got a shoe fetish that her husband don't know about. So we gotta make sure some money's free. So she owns a company and she's a multimillionaire. So we need to make sure that some of this is funded to protect her on the retirement side in case the business goes a little awry. So we don't want to just focus on the business for her for retirement. We also want to have an asset allocation that makes sense to like kind of squirrel money away for her so she has options. So like I'm that guy. I'm very creative and I'm very fast.
Awesome. Here's my last situation. Then we're gonna wind down the show. Okay.
Yep.
I'm in real estate. I own several homes throughout Maryland. Why should I purchase land in Ghana or any other place?
So again, it depends. Now I can tell you some of the advantages of land, but I can't say why one over the other. In Ghana, for me, right? Well, actually, you know what? I'm gonna take that back. I'm gonna take a hard stand on that, and I'm gonna say the reason why you should, because actually I do believe you should. So I'm gonna take a hard stand. Right now, this administration has shown us that this country can go any kind of way real quick. And if laws in banking change, and if laws on home ownership change, if laws on how you sell home change, if preferential treatment starts to become a bit of a problem in this country and you're trying to offload a home, there's a possibility it can be an issue. Now, if you have one home, then I'm gonna leave it alone. But if your question was, I have multiple homes. So now I'm gonna say this is just a way for you to diversify your portfolio. I'm not saying sell everything and then switch to Ghana. I may say move one thing to Ghana just to give you some diversification.
That's good.
So now I'm looking at you. I'm saying, look, well, why don't we liquidate one? Because if you're going to take the law into account, right now you can still move and protect some of your profit up to 250,000, 500,000 if you're married. And maybe we're going to take that profit and we're going to move it offshore though. And then we're going offshore. And what you would have had with one property growing at a maybe Maryland with inflation, 5-6% appreciation, you just move that over to Ghana where you're looking at 22 to 35% growth rate year over year right now because there's such a boom and the supply demand curve is inverted. So the opportunity is way greater over there than it is here. So what you did was you maximized that one property into maybe 7 or 8 properties over there. And they're renting right now back to Americans who want to get out of here. So you're getting American-based rent in Ghana, which is way cheaper. And you just took that one property, converted to like 5, let's say minimum 5. And you have 5 rental properties now based off of one. You still have your portfolio intact and you have asset diversification in a different country. So if the laws change with the banks, you still have money outside the country that's waiting for you.
That's good. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. So what we're gonna do now is Yana, do you have anything that you want to say about tonight and Brother Brent?
Absolutely. So thank you for being a guest. As always, you add a lot of value. You have a lot of knowledge that you share and you share freely. So we really appreciate it. I would ask, do you have any parting words for entrepreneurs? What is something that not a lot of people are doing, but we should be doing right now?
Yeah, find somebody with gray hair and ask them a lot of questions. And then find somebody with no gray hair and ask them their opinion about a bunch of things and compare the two.
Wow.
So
That's good.
I'll say this, you know, if you guys don't have anything for me, I enjoyed this. This is fun. People really should explore themselves, explore their heart, explore what God has for them. And just because you've always seen it doesn't mean that's what you'll always have. Sometimes your opportunities are in things that you've never seen before. So you don't know what it is when you do see it. And that's why you should have somebody looking over your shoulder in the mirror, because they're going to see your potential and you're not going to see it. When you look in the mirror, you're going to see yourself. When somebody is looking over your shoulder and they're looking in the mirror at you, they're going to see your potential. And that's very real. Yes, Roger, you said we could have it. So it's right there.
Oh, go ahead, man. Run with it. You know, I'll get information from Armin and you get my bill in the mail, but it's all good.
Hey, look,
it's real.
Hey, look, bro, you stole my thunder.
Your desire.
You stole my thunder. But we're gonna circle back around. Roger, what do you have for Brent?
Yeah, how would folk get in contact with you? Because Muggs, that's why I was looking at my phone. Muggs texting me, hey, how you get in contact with this guy? I got this, that, and the other. So obviously they watching the show, but instead of them putting their comments on the comment thing, they texting me. You know, I'm not gonna tell you what I text back, but yeah.
So if anybody wants to get in contact with me, you can Brent at bvetoday@gmail.com. Oh no, Brent at bvetoday.com.
You saying that too fast? You saying that too fast? Brent,
okay.
what?
It's Brent.
At
BVE today.
Somebody put it on there already.
Yeah,
Armin did it. Armin already had it. Why you gonna sit up and have it? You know some of these folk too, Armin, sitting up here texting me when you already had the information. See how he set me up? That's Jack.
Yana did that, bro.
Oh, Yana put it on there?
It, Roger.
Okay. Well, I ain't gonna jump on the Yana. She's too pretty for that. I ain't gonna jump on
there you go.
Let me go ahead and finish. Armin, why you do that? No, that's good, man. Hey, thanks for being on the show, man. We may have to have you come back because there's a lot of information.
We'll have him back.
We'll
have him back very soon because we have so many moving parts that you want to stay tuned.
Yeah, and also thank you for your service, gentlemen. You know, whatever you went through, I know it wasn't easy, so thank you for your service. It's much appreciated.
Absolutely, I appreciate that, bro. You know, it was an honor to test you so that you could do what you do now and be the best at it.
Yeah.
Now, you already gave a closing shot, but I'm gonna give you a chance one more time. Whatever positive that you have to leave for the folks out there watching that can help them and themselves.
Now, I will say for everybody watching, believe in yourself more than you did yesterday. When you wake up tomorrow, believe in yourself more than you did the day before. When you wake up the next day after that, believe in yourself more than you did the day before. And when something hits you, and it will, it's going to knock you back like 2 days. But if you don't set these benchmarks for how you believe in yourself, the last time you did an inventory of how much you believe in yourself was probably when you were in your teens. So when you get knocked back, you get knocked back to your teens. When you start setting new benchmarks for how much you believe in yourself and you get knocked back, you only get knocked back a couple of days. So give yourself new benchmarks for how much you believe in yourself. And beyond that, allow yourself to get knocked back, but you won't be knocked back so far. And then you can accelerate faster and further than what you ever thought possible.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's great.
Thank you for coming on the show. And we're definitely going to have you back. In fact, we're going to have a month where it's going to be nothing but business entrepreneurs. You know,
we can do rapid fire. We can do however you want.
Man, I tell you, I'm excited about it. But thank you again. I appreciate you coming on tonight. You know, I may be reaching out to you about a few things. You never know.
Oh. All right, cool.
Everyone that's out there.
I said my mentor. See, this is
Lord. Oh, Lord. Those people that went to Bowie, Man,
I
they
know.
don't. Yeah, man, boy, they stingy. Oh,
Hey,
them
that's why they back up in the woods, right? That's why
Woo!
Hey, but everybody out there watching, we'd like to thank you for tuning in tonight. We're gonna have another great show next week, man. We're gonna have Derek Showbiz Wright and his wife on next week, man. We're gonna talk about why
Go ahead, Showbiz.
Showbiz is gonna be on next
All
week.
right now, that's what I'm talking about. University of Maryland Eastern Shore wide receiver.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. We're gonna talk about something that's gonna hit me hard. You know, why it's important to really feed your body with the right stuff. You know, so I'm going to be tuning in. In fact, I'm going to be taking notes next week. So, Ayana, you have anything that you want to say? Any last parting line that you want to say before we go?
Brent is my mentor, and thank you for tuning in, everybody.
I knew
So
that.
You got to tell them about the tour. You should give the dates for the tour.
Yes, so a couple of things. I do have a tour to Ghana coming up. It is business and real estate focused for those of you. There are a couple spots still available. You have to be able to act fast. You can definitely contact me, and you know, if you're interested, and I can share the details with you. Also, on May 8th, we are going to be broadcasting the show live. It's a Thursday, so we'll have our usual Wednesday show. But then on Thursday, you guys can join us at Lima Twist DC. We'll put the flyer out on our Facebook page, and all you're paying for is your food and beverage, and come out, have a good time, support entrepreneurship, support business owners, and connect with us. We'd love to see you in person.
Now, will you be there, Brent?
May 8th. More than likely, yes.
Awesome. Well, we'll be able to meet in person that night.
Right.
Roger, what do you
You're
have?
not going to be tying him up. No.
Yeah, well, first, Ayana don't want to share, but yeah, you talk about, you know, Showbiz and I'm going to talk about, you know, what you should put into your body and all that good stuff. So right after I finish talking to y'all, I'm gonna put some good stuff in my body with that bottle of wine I got chilling in the refrigerator. So, you know, red wine is good for you. Look it up. You just got to drink a lot of it.
One glass, though. One glass.
What? But, yeah, I'm freezing. I can't hear you. I'm freezing up. I can't hear you. I can't hear what you're saying. You know, 2 glasses, 5 glasses. I can't. The numbers is not coming in right. But you know, Brent, thank you so much, brother. Like they said, we look for you. See you on the 8th when we gonna be up there chilling, and I'm still gonna have my wine.
Hey, brother Brent. You know, business is business, right? All right. Mentor is mentor. Business is business. So we'll wrap.
Come on, don't. We'll talk. Yeah.
Everybody else, thank you for tuning in tonight. And we will see you next Wednesday at the same time.
Same time, same bad channel. I'm about to catch some.